Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Vasco da Gama, which is a 2009 released board game designed by Paolo Mori and published by What's Your Game. This one takes 90 to 120 minutes to play and accommodates 2 to 4 players. Now if you can't tell by the box art alone, this one is your quintessential dry and beige Euro, where you're trying to get as many victory points as you can over 5 rounds. The game board is basically divided up into these different sections, where you have kind of independent actions which you're going to take. And I suppose the core mechanisms you're going to use is an element of worker placement. You've got some programming and a smidge of push your luck. And that is because the order in which you do things is based on this really innovative initiative mechanism, which to be honest, I've never ever seen before, and I find it quite intriguing. So as you can see here from this section, you've got this grid numbered from 1 to 20. And basically the first part of the game is you're going to be drafting these different numbers. So for example, the 1 would be guarantee you to go first place in these terms, in terms of taking your actions, as 20 would go last. But you might think, oh, why don't I always just go for the lower numbers and get the best initiative? And that is because of this token here. So as you can see, this big number 5 indicates where this little token goes, or this little pawn. And what that means is that at the moment, everything below that 5 is going to end up costing money equal to the distance of the token and where that marker is. So if I was to take the 2, then I'm going to pay a difference of 3 because the difference between 2 and 5 is 3. And I will say that money is extremely tight in this game, so that is not an easy decision to make. But that is not perfect information either, because once you've actually ended up drafting all your different numbers, you are going to flip the next tile over, and that is going to show where that marker moves. So it's going to move up or down, up a maximum of 3 or down a maximum of 3, which is going to change the amount of money you're going to have to pay. So for example, that would go to a 5 to a 7, meaning now that everything under a 7 is going to cost you money. But you've already taken, or you've already drafted the numbers that you want. So, it's tough luck if you've taken all the low numbers and you can't afford to resolve your actions. So I think this is a really cool system. And basically you're going to do that 4 times because you've got 4 actions you can take. And once you take one of those numbers, you're going to say, let's say I take this 11, and you're going to put it on one of these different action spots here. Now, as you can see, based on the scaling, you've got different number of action spots here. So in a 2-player game, the first 3 spots are available on each area. In a 3, the next one, and the 4, the next one as well. So in a 2-player game, these 2 spots are essentially blocked to keep the game nice and tight. So let's take a look at what the actual actions are. So the idea is you're supposed to be sending or kind of collecting crew, collecting boats and sending them off to voyage. And you can do that in a pretty systematic way. So for example, this area here lets you take a number of these different crew members into your kind of supply. And that is based on this chart here. So if you want to take all of one color from one of these different windows, and this is scaled based on the player count as well. So in a 3-player game, you've got 3 of these windows open. In a 2-player, only 2, and in a 4, all 4 of them will be open. But you're going to look on this chart, as I said, and maybe depending on the number of different pawns that you want to take. So say I wanted to take 3 different colours, I would have to pay 6. But that doesn't mean that I have to pay for all the pawns. So that would count as a single colour. So I could, for example, take these 2 oranges as just by paying 1 coin. Now, in addition to that, you can always choose to buy a captain of your own colour, and that is going to cost you 1 coin per each other crew member that you've taken that turn. And these are really important because you're going to need them in order to sail and to get points. The next area is this one here, which is based on these characters. And these characters are going to offer you kind of unique player abilities throughout the game. And you've got 4 different characters here, and you've got this additional section like this where you can get money, and that money is indicated at the start of the round based on this tile here. So 5 coins is going to go in the top box, 3 coins in the second box. So you can always go there and take a bit of money to boost your finances. But as I said, you've got these player powers as well. And these can do really cool things. And what I really like about this game is that you can actually have more than one of these powers should you want to. And you can actually stockpile them and really boost off each other and get really powerful turns if you choose to invest in getting all these characters. So the first one is the king, and the king is going to give you the ability to take another worker, but unfortunately you're going to have to be restricted to going 21st or 22nd in initiative order. So you are always guaranteed to almost go last, but you can still get a powerful or another action out of that. It's particularly useful if you aren't too fussed about going first. The priest guy here lets you take one of these missionaries, which basically counts as a separate what do you call it, like a crew member, but of a different colour. And these are useful because some of the boats require more workers than others, and you might need a white one. And basically at the end of each turn, you're going to end up generating one of these white ones automatically should you control the priest. The salesman here, the merchant, he lets you send off the merchant ships onto this board here, which I'll explain shortly. And this guy is simple. He just gives you initiative order in terms of breaking the ties. So you'll always go first, and he'll generate you 2 points at the end of each round. And if anybody ever snatches him off you by taking that player power, he'll generate 2 points instantly. This area here is going to be where you are actually going to buy your ships in the first place. And to do that, you are either going to pay 1 coin in order to take 1 ship, or 4 coins to take 2 ships from this area here. Additionally, you can always choose to pay coins using this area here, and you're going to pay a coin for each one of these symbols here. So this will say 2, so it's going to cost me 2 coins to take this one. But these ships work in quite an interesting way. So let's say I had bought this this 7 tile here. So what this means is that I'm going to have to cash in 4 workers of different colours. It doesn't matter what those colours are, as long as they're different. And when I do that, I can flip it over like so, which means that the ship is almost ready to sell as long as I have a captain to go with it. And if I have a captain, I'm going to go to this area here and potentially send them on a bit of a voyage. So let's say I've done that, and I can send them to any of these areas equal to or lower to the value of their ship. So as you can see, this is a value 7 ship, so I could send it up to a value 7 and get a corresponding reward instantly. So let's say I put it here like this. I would generate 2 points instantly, but could potentially gain more out of doing that. So after all the tokens have been drafted and all the workers have been placed onto the board, they are going to be resolved in initiative order. So even though this yellow player placed first in this area, the red player will still go first because the initiative value is lower than the yellows. So for example, the 3 is going to take their tile before any other player does. So that's a really cool, interesting mechanism here that can add a lot of depth to the game, and really does add that element of programming, because you don't want to start taking actions that you can't really fulfill before having other criteria in your kitty. So for example, I might want to send something on a voyage, but I don't have the crew members or the ship to do it in the first place. So it's really important that you get things in the right order, and basically managing how much you're willing to pay in order to go first. So I really do like that element. In addition, if you ever do find yourself backed into a corner, not having the funds or anything to do the action that you wanted to do, you can always choose to discard the token in order to get the amount of money depending on the row it's on. So for example, if the yellow player did forsake his 11 action, he can end up taking 3 money to his bank. So once all the actions have been resolved, you're going to go into the next phase, which this area of the board is really going to start coming into play. So when this happens, you are going to look at all the different ships onto these different locations. So for example, you've got the red 9 here and the yellow 7, and you're going to have a look at all the different symbols in this top right hand corner of each tile. So the red player is going to start generating points. You've got 2 points for the red player, you've got 2 points for the yellow player, you've also got another point here for the yellow player and a coin for the yellow player. So if they're on the board, you're going to start generating things based on the tile. But in addition to that, if there's ever a row completed, for example here, this location in Terra di Boa Gente is completely filled with tiles, then they are going to shift up into the next row if there is a place for it. And to do that, you're going to have a look at the number. So this is the number 5, or in fact the number 6 boat is going to go up into the next row if there's a free slot for it and occupy it like this. And it's also going to apply for this one here, but still abiding by that restriction of that you can only go to a location equal to or lower than your tile value. And as you can probably tell, there is quite a bit of scope here to get more and more mileage out of your ships should you choose to invest them early. For example, you might want to place quite a high number on a 4, even though it's going to get you fewer points by only getting 4 points. You are potentially going to keep shifting up and generating more and more things. So, you can end up scoring 1 point, and then 2 points, then 3 points, then 4 points, as long as those rows are completed. But of course, it's a big gamble, because if there's ever not a spot for you to go into, let's say, for example, this 6 here, or let's just say this was occupied, by pretending that was a 6 or something, then this one shifts up, and if it's got nowhere to go, it's going to get taken out of the game and stop generating points, but you will get your captain back ready to use later. Whoever's got the sailor tile is also going to have the option to place one of these merchant ships. And these are really good because not only when you place them are you going to get the reward instantly, such as getting, a new crew member, a new captain, some money, but they are also really useful to be blockers and also used to, or can be used to your advantage if you choose to fill up a row that you particularly have loads of people on. So you could do this, for example, just to complete the row so that you start generating points. And that's a really cool mechanism as well that can be used to interact with the other players in quite a catty way, but also quite a beneficial way. And that's basically going to be how the game is going to play out until 5 rounds are over, and then you're going to calculate who's got the most victory points. So if you can get over the pure dryness of this game, there is a lot to like about this one. There's some pretty innovative mechanisms that I haven't seen before, particularly in relation to the initiative order. This is fantastic. So not only are you trying to get things in the right order by placing things in the right spots and activating them, but also bearing in mind how much you potentially are going to pay for these things and whether you are going to take a gamble and just to get those lower initiative orders. So for example, this 7 could be the benchmark, and I could really gamble for this 4, and that could potentially be free for me if it goes down 3 spots, but it also could go up 3 spots and end up costing me a small fortune in order to take that 4 to get priority of the action I want. I think that's really great. It adds a lot of scope to the game, and I think where a lot of the depth really does shine through. But in addition to that, I do like this system here. So this is quite dynamic and has an element of area control that I haven't seen before, where things are shifting and aren't just stagnant. Because not only are they going to start generating new things as a bit of an engine, you've got the coins and the points they're going to generate, but once those rows are complete, they are going to shift up into the new spots and potentially get you more that way. And it does keep things feeling fresh. Things are constantly going on and off the board. The merchants are going on and off the board and just kind of blocking things. And it all does always tie back to this initiative order and the way you're going to do things. And I do like the way it all works together and how you're going to have to kind of link up your actions and program the way you're going to do things. I also really love the way that the player powers work. Now, these aren't, they aren't massive, extremely deep kind of player characters who just change the game a lot, but they do add quite a bit of sizzle onto your game. And if you have them in your possession, they can start ramping up some nice benefits. Getting an extra action per turn is extremely valuable. Generating one of these missionaries a turn, it does start to pay off, and having an income of crew members without even having to go to the crew member spot is really worth having. Even just having the first player marker from start to finish, you've got 5 turns there, and they each generate, or this one generates you 2 points per turn. That can get you quite a significant point swing should you need it. And of course the merchant is also useful. And the fact that you can have more than one I thought was fantastic, and it does kind of keep the jostling for position and keep battling for these characters throughout the game, because you do want them at your disposal. I would say that without this initiative mechanism, the game is pretty linear and probably does have a bit of a glass ceiling on what you can get out of it, because it is pretty formulaic in terms of what you're doing. Getting a ship, loading it up with crew members, and sending them off to get points. And I suppose you could say that about a lot of games, but the fact that you do have that unique element to the game, something that does make it stand out from the crowd and make it feel a bit different, is really nice, because a lot of games do go back to those same old standard tropes and just keep doing the same thing again and again, just with a new skin, whereas this one does at least have something to call its own and something that you can think, this is what Vasco da Gama does differently to everything else. So I do always love it when a game tries something different, and Vasco da Gama certainly does have its own identity simply because of this core mechanism. Now, the game does take about 90 to 120 minutes to play. I would say that maybe in the initial game that you play this, it's going to take more towards that 2-hour mark. But if you've got players who are more familiar with this one, you're going to start getting through those turns quite quickly. And I potentially think you can get that down under the 90-minute mark should you play this regularly. Because in reality, the turns aren't too complex. Yes, you're going to have a bit of a puzzle in your head in which order you're going to resolve things. There's going to be a bit of analysis paralysis at times where you think, can I afford to take this action should the marker go up? So that but these things that can bog the kind of turns down and make things take a bit longer are what adds the interest to the game in the first place. So I think in terms of the time investment, I think the game does a good job of keeping things interesting throughout, and you are always trying to map out your turns quite as efficiently as you can to make things, you're doing things in the right order, but also breaking initiative in terms of getting the particular tiles you want, because if there's a really strong 11 spot going and there's no other ones available and you really want this 11 tile, you're going to have to take a gamble to take a low initiative, but sometimes you'll find yourself not having the funds to do that should the marker go up. So it really is a game of tight resource management in terms of managing your money, but sometimes taking that gamble is going to pay off, and sometimes it's really going to kind of blow up in your face, because I found myself times in this game where I took a whole turn and I just didn't have the funds to do what I wanted to do when I thought I would, and I ended up pretty much wasting a whole turn. But you will get compensated for that in future rounds, and you can actually recover from that should you play well. Now, I will say I am a little bit concerned about the replayability of Vasco da Gama, because there really isn't much variability, there isn't much modularity in this game whatsoever. I suppose the only difference is going to be the order in which these tiles come out. That's going to kind of influence the game quite a bit. And of course, the different ships and things coming out, and the availability of the workers. That's the only kind of dynamic element of the game. For example, the characters here, they're always going to be the same from game to game. They're always going to do the same thing. So it would have been nice to maybe have seen these character tiles be double-sided or something, and have a slightly different or slightly tweak on what they can do from game to game to keep things a bit more interesting, because you are essentially going to be doing the same thing every time you play it. The player interaction is passive, but it's pretty meaningful in this game, and you're certainly going to feel the influence of the other players as you play it, because they're going to start taking the tiles that you want. Are they going to take or kind of trump you in terms of getting the initiative, and bearing in mind that they're going to have to pay for that. You've got limited resources in terms of the crew members you're going to take, because you might want a particular crew member, and again they're going to beat you in initiative and snatch all the ones that you want. So this isn't a game where you can ignore your opponents, and you are going to have to think about what they're going to do in order to prioritise your actions and beat them to the post. This, I suppose, the main part of the interaction does lie here, because you are going to want to control these rows, particularly these higher powered ones here, where you are going to potentially be generating a lot of points should that row be complete. And sometimes you'll find yourself completing them by getting a big bunch of points initially, but you have to bear in mind that you're going to potentially be generating a lot of points for them if they're dominating the row in terms of control. So there is a bit of give and take there, and you're going to have to min-max your turns and kind of weigh up if those decisions are going to be worth it for you or going to benefit your opponent more than it is yourself. I do think this game is going to be somewhat polarizing in terms of the way it looks. There are going to be a lot of people who look at this game and just think instantly that it's going to be boring. And I can completely understand why. It's very brown. You've got these grumpy old nobles from many years ago. But I suppose if you are a fan of the Euro genre, this is something you've come to expect, and probably going to be something that you're going to start to like and enjoy. But it's not going to be one of those games that are going to start inviting people to play, and it does feel very stuffy. It is the quintessential beige brown Euro. However, the production quality is good. I mean, all these worker tokens are extremely nice and they're nice and thick and durable. The board is very clearly laid out. You've got these nice different segmented areas on the board which are very easy to determine which does what. This section is this section does this, and so on. Whereas, which I really like, because I think it makes the game a lot easier to explain. And also the meeples are nice and chunky. All the tiles are really good and durable. So yeah, no complaints in terms of the quality of the game, but I suppose the visual aspect is going to be somewhat polarizing. I would also say that I would hesitate to play this game at 2 players, because I think that initiative puzzle isn't as interesting, and it isn't quite as thought-provoking if that 3rd player or that 4th player is injected into the game, because I do really like the way that it's not like an area by area is resolved at a time. This might be the number 1 might be here, then the number 2, then number 3, then number 4, and I do like the way that all works together. And the more players invested in the game that way, it starts to become a bit more brain-racking, and the puzzly aspect to it does start to shine through a bit more. And again, the added interest in terms of breaking the bank in order to go first is going to start shining through. So final thoughts on Vasco da Gama are that this game is extremely sharp. Yes, I'm always going to go back to this initiative mechanism. That is really where the game does start to shine through, but I was equally as impressed by this system here. The way that the ships move, the things that you're going to have to invest in, the race to get your ships loaded up and sent to these areas to get the most points, to get the initial bonuses. I love the way that things are triggered in order. I love the mistakes that you can make in this game. It actually adds a lot more interest to it because you will find yourself making mistakes and silly things that you didn't mean to do, and overseeing some mistakes that you've seen along the way. There is some scarceness in terms of getting to these worker placement spots, which is important, and you can actually use them to use that to your advantage if you want to block people out of the certain spots here, because you might just take a high token, you've got no intention of using it, just to stop people going from a certain spot, and just to take up one of those locations to go to, because you might really know that someone wants to snatch a player power off you or want to grab one of these areas. So I love the way that you can use them as blockers in order to just take money. Overall, not to beat around the bush, the game is so well put together. Yes, it is so dry, it is so brown, and that in itself is going to put a lot of people off. But the gameplay is fun, despite the way it looks, and I would recommend it. So that is Vasco da Gama, a great midweight Euro that I had a lot of fun with, and this one gets my shield of quality. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.